Today we're going to be talking about some culture shock items here in Florida. What do I mean by that? I am talking about the lore of Florida, not the lure of Florida, the lore of Florida. You know what I mean, those spooky things, those weird things, those is that really a thing that goes on in Florida that you hear about. Now, if you're someone who's thinking about moving to Florida and you live in Michigan, Minnesota, Boston, and you're just not sure, and you don't want to ask somebody if those things are true, because if they're not, you don't want to sound like a lunatic. But then again, if those things are true, maybe you don't want to live in that area. So today we're going to be diving into 5 things that are very intriguing in Florida only, the Florida lore. Late one humid evening in the Florida Everglades, a fisherman was packing up his gear by a cypress-lined canal. Just as the moon broke through the clouds, he caught sight of a hulking figure moving across the sawgrass. It stood upright, covered in dark matted hair, and let out a low grunt that echoed through the swamp. The smell hit him next, sharp and musky, unlike anything he'd ever experienced. In a blink of an eye, the creature vanished into the palmettos, leaving only broken reeds and that unforgettable stench. That's right, folks, the skunk ape. Have you heard of the skunk ape? You might think that skunk ape sounds a lot like Bigfoot. Well, there is a difference. Skunk ape lives in the Everglades in Florida and some of the other swampy areas around Florida, but his main hometown is in the Everglades. In fact, there are entire towns built around the lore of the skunk ape. Now, if you ask a native Floridian that lives in that area, they will tell you that that is absolutely real. It's very similar to a Bigfoot, but it lives in the swamps. I personally have never seen one, okay? Not yet, but you know, I don't really show property in the Everglades, so who knows, I might see one eventually. But I have heard of some locals that swear that they have seen the skunk ape. And like I said, it kind of vanishes through the swamp. I don't know. Were they drinking a little moonshine? I am not sure. I don't want to be judgy over here. But supposedly the skunk ape is a real thing. All right, the next one that you may or may not have heard about that I can tell you is absolutely a real thing is red tide. So there is kind of a misconception that red tide is red, like you see this red water coming in, or some people, especially people that live in the Northeast, they think that red tide is that red seaweedy kind of stuff that you get up on the Northeast coast. It's not. Red tide is a phenomena, it's a bacteria essentially. It's a phenomena that can happen in the water. So basically, in my layman's terms, red tide is an algae that occurs in the water, and the way that I see it is it looks almost like lime green. So under certain conditions, the warm water, the nutrients in the water, the calm sea that you get in the Gulf, the algae can multiply, that can kill fish, harm marine life, and for human beings, for some of us, like if you have asthma or if you have really bad allergies or if you have COPD, anything like that, if you get near the beach in an area, or even if you're boating on the water and there is red tide in the water, you will feel that immediately in your throat and it makes you cough. And I don't mean just like a little bit, it really catches you in the back of your throat and you'll start coughing and coughing. So for people that have allergies or asthma or anything like that, it can be dangerous. I can tell you that there's a little diner that I like to go to, and one of the waitresses that works there, you know, every now and again I'll say hello or whatever, and I hadn't seen her for a while, and I know that she lives in Naples Park. And Naples Park is pretty close to the Gulf. So it's definitely walking distance of the Gulf. So she does not live on the Gulf or super, super close to it, but she's in Naples Park. So let's say less than a mile from the Gulf, maybe even a half a mile. And she has severe asthma. Well, anytime red tide is on that beach or coming towards it, she ends up hospitalized. So she had said she spent 2 weeks in the hospital because they couldn't get her breathing under control from the red tide. Next one, European swimsuits. Do the men really walk around on the public beaches in Speedos or Brazilian cut style Speedos? You know what I'm talking about? And do the women walk around in those itty bitty string bikinis at 78 years old? Is that really true? Is that really true? Does that really happen? The answer is absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. Listen, more power to you. If you can do that and you want to do that, it is not up to me to tell you not to do that. But if you're somebody that has an aversion to seeing men walking around in those little Speedos, then I'm just warning you that it's out there. If you have a problem with women of a certain age walking around in those itty bitty swimsuits, I am just warning you. Could you ever in your wildest dreams think about standing in line at a grocery store for an hour to get a sandwich, a deli sandwich? Oh, you might be thinking,
well, it depends on the kind of sandwich, Barrett. Is it super delicious?
Here's the thing. 2 pieces of bread, some ham, some turkey, maybe some Genoa salami, some provolone, maybe American cheese, some lettuce, tomatoes, some peppers, and a little salt, pepper, vinegar, and oil. Does that sound like something you want to stand in line for an hour? Not me. Absolutely not me. But the public sandwiches have some kind of reputation that people feel that they need to stand in line for that length of time and more to get a public sandwich. I don't get it. Do you not have sandwiches up north where you're from? Do you not have those? I don't know. But for me, when I walk into Publix to do my grocery shopping and I see these lines coming out of the building for these sandwiches, I don't know what I'm missing, but I personally, my taste buds don't see it. And I would add to that also the Publix chicken strips. Just, yes, you're correct. If you're saying, what do you mean, Barrett? Just chicken, breaded chicken, almost like fried chicken, but strips. People seem to think that Publix has the absolute best. Can't get them any better. They love them. For me, I don't eat that kind of thing because if I did, I would have an instant gallbladder attack. 100%. I would eat it, swallow it, and it would stop right here. So I don't eat that kind of thing. So you're going to have to let me know if the fried chicken or the fried chicken strips or whatever are worth standing in line for an hour. All right, then the last one, 1 mile radius living. That's it. 1 mile, draw a circle, not going out any farther than that. There are so many people in Florida. There are so many people, especially in Naples, that will not go outside of that mile radius. There are many people that won't go outside of their zip code. But for the most part, if you said that there was a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow 2 miles outside of their 1 mile radius, they would say, no, thank you. That is for someone else. They will not leave the area that they live in. That's as far as they're going to go. I have experienced that so many times with people. People will pick a zone, and I don't know, maybe it has something, maybe they're coming from a small town in Connecticut. I don't know, but there's this thing that people will only, especially in Naples, only go in this itty bitty teeny tiny radius. And listen, I'm going to give you a bonus. So I don't know, it's super weird. And I'm going to give you one more as a bonus. And I thought this was fake, but I'm telling you, I now feel that this is not on the Skunk Ape category. I feel this is a real thing. If this has happened to you, let me know and tell me down in comments. I have heard that people that moved to Naples and they're retired, and let's say they're 75 and they're retired, and every day they're used to getting up and they get ready at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then they go to have their coffee, and then they head to work. The rumor has been the traffic is so bad at that time in the morning, and then again around 5 or 5:30, is because all these retired people, because there's a lot of retired people in Naples. So you would think maybe theoretically, why would you have that kind of gridlock traffic? These people, because they want to feel like they're in their routine of life, even though retired, get up, have their coffee, and drive to a non-existent work. And they do that in just kind of a drive around, and then they get out and do that again around 5 or 5:30. Now, listen, you might be thinking what I'm thinking, because I thought the same thing. I was like, yeah, that's Skunk Ape. Nobody's doing that. I can tell you, and I could give you names, but we'll just call one of them Earl and one of them Franco. I know that Earl and Franco do that. Earl and Franco don't know each other, but one of them is a Dunkin' Donuts lover. He would go at 7 o'clock in the morning. He would go to Dunkin' Donuts. He would get his coffee, and then he would drive around. Even in the gridlock traffic at 5 o'clock, he would go get himself another coffee. Now, you might be thinking, who's going to get coffee at 5 o'clock in the evening? You'd be surprised. Franco, on the other hand, would go to a diner because that's what he was used to, because he was from Danvers, Massachusetts, and there was a place there called Brothers. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? And that's where he would go. So he wanted to have that same kind of vibe, same routine in the morning. And then he told me that 5:30, he used to stop on the way home and get a drink, and now he stops and gets ice cream. And he does not mind getting in that traffic. It feels like his routine. So I'm telling you, these things happen. These are real, actual things. The only thing that could get a little questionable would be the skunk ape, but I don't know. Listen, I don't know. One man's Bigfoot is another man's skunk ape, so you're going to have to let me know on that.